Effectively an increasing range of both new devices that are connected to the internet and where perhaps people haven't thought of any devices in those spaces. But the main thing we're going to notice is that people are going to instrument everyday devices that we have today, and it's already been discussed everything from refrigerators through perhaps through monitoring devices, as we're seeing now with Nest and things like that at home. But some of the new devices that are going to come are going to be some of the wearable technologies that perhaps will look after our medical well-being. So for older folks, perhaps things that monitor their blood pressure. I was just talking with a colleague the other day with an elderly mother who says that if her blood pressure goes low, the first notification really is she's fallen, and then the next thing required is an ambulance call out. Clearly very expensive for the health services. Whereas actually, if it could have been noted that her blood pressure was falling because she's in an assisted centre, the carer could have been called before a fall had happened. So I think those sorts of new devices are going to really very materially change what we do. A lot of businesses will simply be consumers of this. I'll be really honest. So they're just going to buy in. They're going to buy in, the technology to there. But if we take some businesses that are going to adapt, and this will involve things like, let's take our motor vehicles, cars. They're going to be increasingly instrumented. We only have to look at the trouble that VW have effectively got themselves into recently with their software to realise that if they could have reprogrammed our cars on our drives, there would be huge amounts of saving compared to having to bring all of them into the dealership. And even VW have said that not all the cars need actual mechanical changes. Many of them it's just software upgrades. So I think those companies are going to have to get to grips with that. And in getting to grips with that, we're going to have to possibly get used to the fact that our car might be upgraded over a night time. And their challenges are, one, to put into place the things to do that, but also the safety measures, both on security, so that nobody could hack into that and upload some software that would, not work correctly or be materially damaging to us. The other thing is that those updates must be able to happen very cleanly. We can't have, as we have on our phones or our PCs, don't shut me down now because you might brick the device. We're not going to tolerate a car that's bricked when we want to use it in the morning. It's got to work. So they're going to have to take a lot of care. The networks that they use will of course typically be wireless. We will not be plugging in cars and other devices. They'll just be standing where they are. There'll be either wireless technologies that we understand today, your 2G, 3G, 4G mobile technologies, or there'll be modifications of Bluetooth or other technologies that we have sort of seen today but sort of are cast in different ways. But for all of those wireless technologies, they're not really perfect. So that means those companies are going to have to test everything they do in quite imperfect networks. It's no good saying don't disconnect me from the network. The chances are that could simply happen. And so all the testing will have to be done on the assumption that the network will be poor. I liken it very much to the journey I made here to the IoT show today, which is I didn't have any control of the trains and whether they were going to work or how full they were going to be, whether I was even going to be able to get on. They are what they are, just like the network is the network. You must work with and tolerate that and allow yourself enough, if you like, in the journey terms, enough time, but in their terms, the ability to recover from problems automatically. Because one thing we know about IoT devices is they'll generally be unmanned. So it's not a case of like a phone where it says, I've got an error message, restart me. It's got to restart itself. It's got to deal with all of that automatically. And that means their software engineers are going to have to start to think a bit differently than they do today. And the counterpoint of that is that they're in quite a hurry to produce some of this IoT today. So being in a hurry and getting things right, you don't always sit well together. Well, I would say we're not so much an IoT company as part of that enabling technology. So at iTrinergy, we produce some devices that allow you inside your own development environment or test environment to produce a range of networks. And when I say to produce a 2G, a 3G, a 4G on demand in those environments, because otherwise for any particular developer or tester, the network is whatever it is. You know, as I sit in this place, I may have a 3G or 4G network. It may be good or poor. But what we do know with the IoT is the developers will have to have tested in a range of networks at their poorest, even at their poorest failing to no network at all, because that's what they're going to get in the field. And so where they may consider something to have a very low probability, say only happen 1 in a million times or 1 in 10 million times, in an IoT world where you'll roll out 100,000 devices and each of those devices performs an operation, say 10 times a day, immediately 100,000 times 10 in a million, and your 1 millionth probability means that one device experiences that error every day. So you better have experienced it in your test environments and dealt with that. So we're an enabler for that, to allow these companies to produce those poor networks really on demand, so they can ensure that everything they produce for the consumer is going to be robust and secure. For us, it's fantastic. And the reason is because we've always been in network test, IoT is fundamentally all about the network. So fantastic.